feel like I make some kind of depressing videos. I apologize. All right. Well, I was sitting in I was sitting over here and I was thinking about I mean, I know I'm talking so much about people who have died. It's real hard on me. But I really want to prevent that. All right, so but I was sitting over here and I was thinking about the schoolmate who died, and I really feel like, do people understand? Would anyone really? How many people would actually understand? Would understand? And I feel like, well, I'm gonna take my glasses off. I feel like I need to take them off. All right, so how many people would understand? Kind of, I mean, it's serious, and even, I mean, real, yeah, of course it's serious. He died, but him coming to mind real strong, dreaming about him, trying to find a way to get in contact with him. All right, and it was over 3.5 years before he died. All right, so that's not a good thing. All right, that he died, and I was sitting here and just thinking, should I get a pendant or something like a saint, with kind of his name, whatever language it might be in, and then I'm thinking how many people would understand, and I'm not sure people understand. So anyhow, I was just kind of sitting here, thinking about that, and then just kind of letting my mind wander, kind of relaxing, and I looked I looked at this, and I got I got a brick. Well, I got one, and then I got a few. Thinking about, and well, I could say ancestors. So, a great 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 grandfather with a Spanish name, and who was on his death certificate says he was a brick mason, and that was on Papa's mother's side. On her, it was her mother's father, her mother's, I think her mother's father. All right, so I think that's great, great, great for me and my brothers. So, but I was looking at that, and then I was remembering some ceramic work that I did when I was a student at Augusta. That was like tools. It was kind of like tools, but abstract. Um, so yeah, so I was looking at that. I remembered those pieces, and I don't have them anymore. I probably took them somewhere like Goodwill, because I took quite a bit. I didn't just throw stuff away. I had pottery break sometimes, but those pieces were pretty durable, and they were large and hand built. And one of them had 3 holes, but it was more rounded, and I mean probably, I mean, kind of the size of the screen of the laptop, which is, I don't know how many inches, but how can I do this? I don't know. I don't know what size it is, but and then there was another piece that was like, well, no, not this. All right, so I'm gonna look for the tool and just trying to show. Nope. Wire cutters. So how did I get? Well, maybe it's in the garage. Well, all right. So just imagine this is pliers. It was, or I mean, I guess actually, maybe it was kind of like this piece right here that I'm holding. Kind of that shape, but it had sort of those things on it, like on pliers. Like, what did you get? Yeah, I mean, I was upstairs just trying to relax and sitting in a little bit of dark, and he started getting kind of rough. Well, anyhow, a pretty big piece like that, and I'm trying to remember what else, but they were hand built. They were kind of that terracotta color, and all right, thank you, Garth. Okay, and yeah, you know, um, Well, I mean, I'm reminded of work that I did where I don't have the pieces anymore. I don't have photographs of, what I did. But I think about, I mean, I don't know that I want to use the word themes, but there was some kind of, I mean, worker like, you know, something about that I was not really thinking about when I made them. I was just kind of making them. But like half a tool kind of thing, and then something that kind of looked like you know, that has some similarities to a brick like that. And what else? Well, there was a vase that I threw one time, and I put like railroad track on it, and got an ugly look from my ceramics professor. So I just, mashed it back down. I had not fired it. And it's really, there are real things that a person could describe as kind of subtle that a person can do that can discourage a person to the point that they just discard their work. And some of that went on, and I don't understand that, because if I had gotten the opportunity to teach, I mean, being there for students would have been as important to me as making my own art. When we're creative, when we're artists, we always have something in the works, even if we aren't thinking about it. And, I really like to think that most people want to teach, not to have a position where they can just make art. And, some do that. But anyhow, yeah, I thought about that. I was sitting here and looking at that and just thinking, about Atlanta, and, letting myself feel kind of, grounded more. It helps me when I think about that ancestor. I just feel calm. When I see a picture of him, I feel calm. And he was born in the 1830s, and maybe in Guilford County, North Carolina, and I don't know anything other than that. I don't know, I don't know who he came from or anything. What are you doing? All right. So I think about states that are more to the west that are still in the south, and I'm like, it would be real nice. It would be nice to know more. I would like that. But I do think it's possible for pieces to kind of come together in ways that we might not expect. When people are important to us, culture is important to us, and I think about trying to find information, and then sometimes they're dead ends, and sometimes you kind of have to wait. And I do think paying attention to dreams and things like that, to me, that's real valuable, important. I can't imagine anyone, if you think about anyone that tries to prevent a person from having dreams, that's profane is a word, I mean, but yeah, there's a real bad smell. Now, I don't know what Garth's doing. What do you have? Well, anyway, I just thought I would talk about that for a minute. And yeah, I liked mixing clay. That was fun to me, mixing it. And what I was just remembering is I did actually do some hand building that was not completely messy, because I had some things that I made that were kind of, jaggedy, and there was wire and, stuff like that. Anyway, but yeah, I did some things that were not like that. And, well, I don't have photographs, but but I just remembered it, and I thought I'd talk about it.